And I'm alive. I guess most of you probably used to that by now. My co-patriot Bugs is back here somewhere. He's tied one on probably, and he just can't handle his booze. I guess. Well, actually, I'm kidding. I just moved the room around, just put a new keyboard in, and I'm gonna show it to you later. It's a picture of an old an old Hammond organ from ages ago. I had a Technics organ, Panasonic electronic stuff, more modern version of the classic organ that came out years ago. So now I've got a Hammond organ, a vestige of the past. Some people might be familiar with the brand of Hammond, some people might not. Anyway, the reason I'm recording this recording right now is because I got an opportunity to do so. My adopted son is no longer in the basement right now. He's probably taking a cigarette break, and I got a quick plans to record a little short recording. Anyway, some of you might know this, but some will find out. I was posting videos just recently to get on my channel up today, bringing you guys all the content I've been saving up for a while. I unfortunately noticed that two of the videos out there that were posted for June 5th, that were part 1, 2 of, it looks like a part 1, 2 something, were really messed up. I mean, really badly messed up. Messed up to the point that the recording was. I didn't realize there was problems with the computer. That I needed to break the computer. And it was starting to stutter, and files were not being recorded properly. And because of the result of that, what was happening is the video was basically half speed. So it was like half recording, go da 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 da. So it would show up, look like real time, but it was like basically look like you were stuttering and not being able to say much. So any of those people that may have saw me advertise those videos up and they've been pulled down and are able, please be very aware of the fact that I just realized those videos were I should have did quality control on those videos. I didn't realize those videos from way back there had some issues with it. I'll do my best in the future to quality check all the videos in terms of quality before I put them out. I'm not editing videos yet. I'm not doing anything than just making a live stream like this, as I always do. Eventually, I'll probably do some more fancy editing stuff, but for right now, it works the system for me. It's the system I like. It requires little amount of time and effort right now, but as I get better at this, and as I get more proficient at this thing, and as I get to the state where I want to maybe incorporate some external content, and maybe bring some other things to the channel if I feel like it's a new thing that maybe you might see as necessary, or introduce possibly some guests in the future. I'll endeavor to make them videos a little bit more entertaining in time, hopefully as we build an audience. So, bear with me. Okay, so videos are gone. I recorded a bunch of videos. There was a series of videos I did record on the 17th of the month that unfortunately had the same issue. I recorded 3 long videos and didn't realize, I wasn't realizing when I looked at the timer, I was going really straight. I goes, why is the timer going so slow? Turns out the reason it was going slow, same issue, recording. And recording with digital media, the one side of power base, the computer is recording digital media, and we're basically doing a capture, which is literally what's happening. In this case, it's a web capture, using a webcam as opposed to a digital capture device of some other sort, like I had before. And because the computer was up, because of some latency issues, the recording was messed up really, really badly. So unfortunately, I had to take those recordings off, including the ones I did, which is unfortunate because to spend a good 3 hours recording this content for you would have been a very excellent thing. But as I do in life, I got married once. That was a whole 1.5 years of learning how not to be a husband and father and whatever the hell else I was at that time. But not to find the right person in my life, or the wrong person in my life, I didn't say. I thought I had the right person, I missed right, but it was missed wrong for all the wrong reasons. So I call this like everything else. When I had my business, when it failed, I keep joking about it. It's $30,000 3-year experiment on how not to do a business, especially when you don't have experience to do business. And the worst part is I brought my father, who had a business that failed, and I should have told me something right there, because the fact is, he didn't learn from the first one. He wasn't intending to learn from the second one, nor was he intending to be involved in the second one. He was just there to get whatever he could get, and then he was gone. Adios, bye-bye. So I was very much out of my element there, as I may be here. But time and age adds experience. Just like when I did the karaoke videos for the Cousins Karaoke, when I did Cousins Karaoke with my dad, I learned a lot from that. Just as when I did the videos for Street of Chicago when I first started out. The early videos for Street of Chicago were pretty amateur, but like I said, I was really recording them with a Windows 7 camera phone. And not a very big screen, not a very big phone, not only mono audio, didn't have a very good capture microphone. It was horrible, but the thing is, like I say, it was a learning experience, and that's the only recordings of this concert that probably nobody exists. Most other people, if they've had recordings of it, have probably gotten rid of them, or just for the sake, and they weren't as extensive as mine. So I got recordings from things that went on 4 or 5 years ago at that point in time, from the time of that whole thing was starting. So I got a whole lot of thousands and thousands of hours of Sweden Chicago videos that most people have never seen. And maybe some of them will put it up someday. Like that's the goal. Is that some of the stuff of the thing is we have this need for nostalgia, which is why things like the Sweden Chicago Blues Brothers trio band that my brother Doug, brother Kevin, and his buddy Doug, well, kind of my brother too in a way because his sister is involved with my brother. That's another Kevin official together. So it's kind of family. So he is kind of family. So my brother and my two brothers, Doug and Kevin, my brother-in-law Doug and my brother Kevin, more or less type of thing, were together involved in, and they've been involved in a lot of projects over the years. This is one of several projects that Doug was the spearhead towards. He much likes to do a lot of nostalgia acts and stuff like that. He's not much of a guy for original tunes, as opposed to my brother, who's a very creative guy who's written a lot of original music, but doesn't ever bow at an opportunity to perform, especially something like that. And it was a very big deal. We did put a lot of effort to it. Kevin is very much a perfectionist when he does the thing. He's very much puts his all into the whole performance thing. So it was a great thing for him to do. Absolutely fantastic thing. If you got to see the day, great. If you didn't, go to my Sweet Home Chicago channel at Sweet Home Chicago on YouTube. You might see other channels of Sweet Home Chicago, but you can recognize mine because I have mine pictures on it somewhere, and you can tell it's my channel. One of these days, I'll post the link in the comment section here, so anyone that wants to peruse the channel themselves and check it out and see what the music of my brother and Doug performed at the time with their large band. They had a great band, excellent band, even though there were a few members that came in and out as the entourage over time. Excellent shows. You would enjoy the day. I'm hoping that maybe they might just stop their dancing boots and dancing shoes and their hats and go at it for one or more times. Because I think people out there are ready for a good, solid blues performance, especially when tribute and nostalgia bands are always big and they always seem to come back on a regular basis. I know they probably won't do a large run if it does run. It'll probably be a limited run a couple times because the problem was at a point in time they were playing constantly. The guys were getting a little fatigued by it. It wasn't really going there. It was a little bit of pocket money. It wasn't being rich. But it was good. And I think if they do it again, I think they might just stick to doing occasional bigger gigs like maybe places like Greenfields, which is a fairly big club. They did do the Brass Monkey several times and had very enthusiastic crowds for that one. But I think that the biggest one, the one that made them big, is some of the festivals like Oktoberfest. I think maybe I can get Doug to come out of the closet. Well, not in a gay sense. With nothing wrong with that. Jerry Seinfeld reference, if anyone knows. There's nothing wrong with that. And come out and maybe do another show for Oktoberfest. I don't know if he's got his contacts over it. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to welcome Doug and the gang back. He'd have to put a band together. I don't know how much notice he would need to put another group together because obviously it's a big ensemble. You have 3 different horns. You have a guitarist. You have a bass guitarist, which Kevin was not the bass guitarist. He was the second lead guitarist because, of course, there was 2 lead guitars in the original Blues Brothers. He did one of the guitars, and he played the part of Elmer Blues, and he was also the harp player because that's one of the things Elmer did play. And they had a keyboardist, the drummer, and they sometimes had backup singers. In some of the original, you will see backup singers. Great performances, and I don't know if they'll be able to put together that type of ensemble again. One of the guys that was involved in the thing was the gentleman named Mark. He was known by his name, the Hook, Mark the Hook Tucker, along with the Mike Dr. Seuss. Mike Seuss, the doctor. And if you know anything references to Dr. Seuss books, you'll understand why that was a thing. The various guitarists were named after the characters in tribute to it. There was Don, also known as the Duck, in reference to Don Duck Dunn, the original bass player for the Blues Brother band. So it's kind of funny that he's also Donald, and he's also a bass player. And it doesn't resemble him a lot, but he's a very tall guy, and he was a great guy. And maybe he can get him involved again because he was a pretty good bass player. Even though he kind of looked stoic playing the bass, he sounded like he was in his. He looked like he was in his element. So I mean, really, really good. I know Mike Seuss has moved on to other passions. He's more into techno and stuff like that, and modern music. I don't know if you can bring it back. He was an excellent keyboardist. I mean, he was meticulous in it, and he was very prideful about his instruments, and of course, very, very knowledgeable with them. So it made a lot to the authenticity, and the fact that the dedication that they all put to the playing of this thing made it an excellent show. Probably one of the best Blues Brothers shows out there as far as tribute shows are going. I've never seen other shows outside of that one in particular. I've seen some on the internet, I've seen other ones, but like I said, from being there on a regular basis, right live, recording it on the time, on the fly, right there, it was a great show. excellent performance. I wish they would have taken it further than just Ottawa and Montreal, and maybe Cornwall, a couple other smaller cities. I wish they would have taken it further than that. But all these guys had regular jobs, so of course this was a very difficult. This was more of a passion project than a profession. So hope they had come back again. Anyway, or maybe in some other form, because I think Kevin, my brother, is looking at other projects and maybe doing something more original this time. And maybe we can convince them to actually put some of that Sweet Home Chicago magic in the form of a couple sets of songs that people might remember and love to hear again, along with some new original stuff, I'm hoping. Anyway, this is Mike. I'm sorry about what happened with the podcast. I'm sorry that I had to remove the June 5th shows that are on there. I didn't realize the files were corrupted. And of course, I will endeavor to check all corrupted files before they put it on the air and make it my mission to be the best quality show I can possibly be, so that my audience, whoever they are, wherever they are, enjoys it just as much as I enjoy doing it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up now. I've got to plan the episodes that got damaged. I got to work on those, so hopefully very shortly I will start in the series. It'll be a series, if I have never talked about it already, about how we got to this place we are today in terms of the modern society, as far as capitalists, communists, socialists, the world in general. How we got there, how all this got there, where we are now, how we got here, where we might have came from. We're going to go back to a little bit earlier times. Not really back early, but the early times of history where modern civilizations were starting to form in some form, and sort of go to chronicle over it and sort of lay the groundwork for what I think is the influence, the things that happened in history that were instrumental in the changes that are happening today, and how those things affected them back then, and how those changes over time incrementally have affected us now, and in the future of why I think it's going to go, as well as some alternative futures I think that people should think about, because ultimately we have the power to determine our own future as a society. And as soon as we give up that power, specifically to politicians, individual politicians or individual people that are looking for power, then we end up giving away power. And the thing is, I've seen lots of times, I've been with people that complained about politics and said, oh, I don't like this politician or that politician. I said to the guy, this one particular person I'm thinking about, well, he said to me, well, he never voted. I said, well, you never voted? How can you complain about a system that you hate so much? He was from Vancouver, which is ironic because they're one of these areas where was ultra-liberalism and the Liberal Party is predominant there. So how can you complain about a system that you've never participated in? You have no right to complain about a system that you have never participated, because you've not ever considered putting your voice to it. You basically discredited your voice from the process, and you had the nerve to complain about the fact that other people who did choose to vote chose somebody that you didn't want. Now, choosing and complaining come hand in hand. If you choose and don't get what you want, you get the right to complain. If you don't choose and you don't get what you want, you have lost every right to complain or to brag, for that matter, about the choice, because the fact is, you're not the one responsible for either one. So think about that sometime, that the power of votes. And the thing is that we need to come up with a system that makes those votes more meaningful. And I think that's the biggest problem. Why a lot of the youth in society feel disconnected from politics, and that's why we got so many people like it. So I don't totally blame this guy for doing it. In a way, I can understand his disillusionment with the current political system, the current structures about democracies in North America, especially Canada, in this case, because Canada is my home, and the democracy that's closest and dearest to my heart. The American democracy does affect us, ultimately, because it's the largest democracy around. It's our next door neighbor, so of course it's the old elephant in the room thing, where the mice, they're the elephant. So when they shake, the room shakes. So I have to be some little bit interested. That's why I do follow a little bit more of American politics than I might follow maybe European politics, for example, except for things like the Ukraine, which has become a very complex issue in itself, and Russia, and China even. Those all interplay in each other and how they affect the rest of the world and how we live in it. Anyway, I'm going to put this series together. It may be a multi-part series. I may have some stories and anecdotal things that come up in terms of it. I'll attempt to keep the anecdotes brief, and if there's any ones I feel that are meaningful that might make interesting side stories to tell, I will tell those stories separately at some point in time as a separate episode on their own, for anyone that might be interested in learning the mechanics and the nitty-gritty about things that happen in my life, other than just the sort of history of this particular topic, which I think is very important for people to listen to, and it's very important for people to know. And like I said, no matter who talks, no matter who gives a speech, always never totally trust anybody's resource or one single resource. Always do your own research. Use your own brain. You've got a brain, folks. I hope you do. And use your brain and do your own critical thinking. Do not look at one resource. Don't look at one source. Don't look at like I watch several sources, liberal, conservative, whatnot. Vice I watch anything from Tucker Carlson to guys like so when they're the one that Dr. Jordan Peterson. On one side, I watch things like the one there, our favorite homosexual gay there guy there. He used to be part of the Young Turks. He'll come back to me. Anyway, I watch him. Dave Rubin report. Watch him. I watch Mark Dice. I watch all kinds of different commentaries. Each one has their own point, because the fact is, the good thing about opinions is that everyone has a different opinion. You don't have to necessarily agree with all the opinions, but you have to understand what the opinions are. How can you debate opinion if you don't have an opinion of your own, and if you don't understand the opinions of others, and understand how you can coincide those opinions, even contrary opinions of your own, but then find some sort of consensus that people can get along with. But you have to educate yourself. You can't allow one opinion to be the one opinion you get. You can't rely on one source of information for everything, because sometimes those sources have agendas. They're also biased to some degrees, because their own biases. We all have biases that sort of filter into our opinions. So we have to listen to every source and be open-minded. Not like my mom, who is a single-minded thing and hates Donald Trump and doesn't know why. Well, the thing is, I also hate Donald Trump. I hate the man. I can't stand him as a president. I think he's a bombastic lug nut. But the thing is that he makes sense of a lot of sort of policy things, and he's a very I don't know if the policies are his originally, or they're people around him that have given policies, or maybe they're inspired. I don't know where they come from. But the fact is, many of the policies have a lot of insight, and people should listen to some of those policies instead of getting caught up in the politics of letting certain people tell them what to think about a person, or how to feel about a person, and then neglect to think about the real problems about Joe Biden, for example, being an old senile man, and the fact that he's got family members that are less than reputable, and the fact that he looks like, as a politician, being a career politician, might have a little bit of shadiness involved in this thing that many people have overlooked for whatever reason. Like I said, don't believe me. Look out there for the sources. Check out everything, every source. Don't look at the left side. Don't look at the right side. Look at all of them and make up your own mind of what you think. Ultimately, the thing is, you're the arbiter of what you think is right. All people can do is bring you information, and you can filter through it and use your own brain to come up with the conclusions that make sense to you, and make those types of informed decisions that most people, unfortunately, choose not to do. Anyway, another thing, sort of as a side, just wanted to make a note, just as a note on the side recently, I noticed that our friends at CTV and a couple of networks are starting to get some massive layoffs. Congratulations to you guys. You did a good job, and you deserve to be punished. I mean, rewarded. Well, whatever. What a shit show. Raise your hand, whoever out there that already knew that this was going to happen months ago. Raise your hand. I did. I knew it. It was just so inevitable. It was going to be so long for the government to keep funneling money into this thing. They kept funneling money into this thing because they were buying this loyalty of the CBC, which is easy to buy because the CBC is a government institution, is a government channel. Let's face it, 75% or more of its financing, or even more than that, is government money. It doesn't come from the private sector. It was never meant to be. It was meant to be a public broadcaster. And as a public broadcaster, it was supposed to be purporting the news, not opinion. Not of any government. Not any government biased opinion, either for or against. It was supposed to be a factual station because it was supposed to be a reliable source for Canadians, because the government was supposed to be make it a completely separated, non-biased, non-government based, not owing to any government, not beholden to any government as far as policy was concerned, unbiased reporting, fair, objective on all sides. Unfortunately, what happened, because they became so dependent on government money, especially this bailout money that the government's giving for all the media basically got caught in the vortex of supporting the government that was going to keep feeding them the money, because the for-profit ones were now in the game, not just the non-profits. They were feeding everybody, and it wasn't just feeding the news and the television. They were feeding the radio, and they were feeding print media. They were feeding all the traditional media out there, who were feeling a cringe and punch from the change in times of people migrating to this very new media, well, new to them, called the internet. And the cosmic and monumental changes in the landscape, the catastrophic changes they're going to make to how news is reported, the ability of the citizen journalists to actually be a voice for change and for opinions. They're like more than one opinions. Now the citizens can make opinions. They don't have to rely on individual journalists or celebrities, which became big celebrities, most of them, because of their opinions, and of course their reach, and of course their whatever their charisma or whatever production values and that. A lot of the same production values can be produced by a guy like me in my basement, just like Mark Dice says all the time. And he's right. Whether you agree with Mark Dice's opinions, whether you agree with Mark Dice in period, as far as his content's concerned, he's absolutely right about one thing and one thing alone. The fact is that you have that much power as a citizen journalist now with your own personal computer and internet connection. You grab a microphone, any sort, a web camera, and your some editing software, or even just stuff like I'm using, OBS, which is free, which is available to any single person that can download the internet, can run a computer, can become their own broadcaster of sort of, and then just post on anything, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, like in the case of Varsity's putting on Twitter, to bypass the idea that he can't broadcast anything. Well, he's not broadcasting anything. He's not a broadcaster. He's an individual citizen who happens to be using his own name as his brand, which he is. It is his brand. He can't. Why would he call himself anything else? He is Tucker Carlson. He is his own brand. So anything he puts up there, the beauty of it is that Fox is paying his salary to do this. They're paying for him to shit can them. And they can't do a damn thing about it because the fact is he's not being paid by anyone else. He's not working for anyone else. He's not taking any payment from anyone else. He's not even monetizing the content yet, I suppose. Nothing. He doesn't need to, because Fox for the next year or so, or whatever, 2 years, whatever this contract goes in, I think it's 2025, is paying us out until they decide that enough is enough and they need to let them alone and move on and maybe learn something from what this experience is in terms of the new media and how the power of personalities like Tucker Carlson, and never underestimate the power of those personalities. And the thing that I think he made is he may have pushed the envelope to cause this to happen. I'm not sure, but it looks awful suspicious. I mean, really, it does. I mean, he knew that eventually something was going to happen to this. I suspect he did. And he already prepared for that. He moved his studio. He wasn't even in Fox's studio anymore. He was recording at home. He already had everything's infrastructure set up long ago to be an independent broadcaster, except he had the backing of a network he was being paid by. And what do you want? They were put there. He was selling the right to have his content placed on the internet everywhere they owned that content. That was their content to own that. That content that he produced under the Fox window, while he was working as an employee, was their content to place anywhere they wanted to on their TV channels and whatnot, and used to promote. I'm sure Fox made a lot of money, lots of money from advertising, sales, and such, and marketing from his name, like they do with every single content provider they do on there. So they're not doing it for the sake of their health. They're not doing it to help Tucker Carlson because they think they're altruistic, that he's a great guy and everyone should hear him. They're doing it because they brought him on there to make money. And then once he realized that he was going to disparage him in a way because he was willing to be non-controlled, he was willing to not let them muzzle him anymore and put out content that he thought was right to be put out there, and they used the excuse to get rid of him. And of course, it backfired because look at the ratings. It just went to the toilet. Internet power. Internet power. That's where it is. So thing in the CTV, it's basically the network recognizing the fact that the news division of the CTV is not a cash cow, never was. News has never been a cash cow anywhere. It was part of the information source. And once they stop giving information, once they truly start being unbiased and information based and being informative where advertisers will be willing to pay for the people that go there, now it's becoming a liability. And they realize that it's going to eventually get smaller and smaller TV broadcasts. They're going to put more and more commercial content. There's going to be more and more programs, less news. And the people that want news will have to go somewhere else. They'll have to go to an independent news channel, like CNN or some other channel. Maybe some other channel will start up like that. They got CBC News, if that, unless Paulie decides to can that too, because the fact is, let's face it, CBC News is a big 24 hours of the same propaganda news that was on CBC's regular news, except 24 hours a day. And then same with sports and everything else that's on there. That's subsidized by the government in some form in order to survive. The fact is, government money is not going to sell the product. Ultimately, it's viewers and content and compelling competition and finding more and better ways to be out there and produce your content cheaper, faster, better quality, better value. That's going to win back audiences if you want to keep them intelligent until it dies out entirely, because TV, let's say, is going to eventually die. It's eventually going to become the internet, and that will be the next transition. And of course, there will be another transition after that. So, good riddance to the CTV guys. Maybe they'll figure out what Tucker did. They'll just go on the air and just take their personalities with them. Some will follow them. There'll be people that want to follow the internet because people have been following people on the internet. There may be personalities that are compelling enough, like Lisa Little Flam, that could build an audience elsewhere, could go to somewhere else and start, or many of them people might decide to retire altogether and just become independent journalists on YouTube once in a while because they really don't need the money anymore. They really don't need to work anymore. They just want, it's better off just to retire, take your paycheck, take your severance package, and enjoy your retirement. Enjoy your time in the sun. Your time is over. You're done. You're still a celebrity. You'll still be recognized by many people out there, but ultimately, you'll never be as big a celebrity as you ever were because there is new celebrities coming along, just like with music and any other profession. Celebrities come, celebrities go. You make a celebrity, you make a celebrity go away and become eventually irrelevant. And eventually, then nowadays, they say, "Who? What happened to? Oh, I didn't know they were so and so. I didn't know they did that." Happens to all people. There's even celebrities that existed in the 20s and 30s that people don't know about that were big, big things in their day, but their day is gone and gone. Anyway, this is enough for me. I think I'm being booted out of the theater here. So anyway, hope to be enjoyed by series. It's hoping to come up sometime. I'm working on it sometime this week, and hopefully to post it by the end of the Friday or Saturday. This is Mike, and signing off. And this is my two Loonies. Like, comment, and subscribe. Of course, tell your friends. If you don't like it, tell me at info@endtimemedia.ca. Check me out. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.